To reduce its carbon footprint, Singapore is turning to renewable energy. And that means building one of the world's largest floating solar farms. This is Tengeh Reservoir Floating Solar Farm. With 122,000 solar panels spread across 16 arrays sitting on 250,000 floats, this joint project by PUB and Sembcorp covers a massive 45 hectares. That's equivalent to 45 football fields. It is also nearly enough space for 13 dual Changi airports, or just over 3.5 Suntec cities. The Tengeh Solar Farm has a capacity of 60 megawatt peak, which can power around 16,000 4-room HDB flats for a year. This translates to a carbon emissions offset of 32 kilotons annually. This is equivalent to removing around 7,000 cars from the road. In comparison, the two largest floating solar farms in the world, which are both located in China's Anhui province, each have capacities of 150 megawatt peak. A solar power system's capacity is measured in megawatt peak. This is the amount of power it can generate under ideal conditions. The Tengeh Solar Farm is set to be operational in the second half of 2021. The clean energy it generates will be used to power PUB's local water treatment plants. These are the plants that will turn reservoir water into drinking water. That makes up 7% of PUB's annual electricity needs.
In Singapore, the land is scarce, there is lack of roof space and there's lack of land space. So the reservoir is the other way to go to solarize Singapore. This is a 60 megawatt project and is about 4% of Singapore's 1.5 gigawatt target.
Solar as a renewable energy source for Singapore is one of the most viable. For PUB, this energy also is able to power all our 5 waterworks. So with this project, Singapore will be one of the few in the world to be 100% green in terms of water treatment.
The Tengeh Solar Farm uses photovoltaic or PV technology to generate power from the sun. When sunlight hits the cells on the PV panels, the absorbed radiation triggers a reaction. This generates a direct electric current. The current produced is then converted into an alternating current by a power conditioning system. The current is then channeled into the power grid. From there, PUB will claim credits for the energy produced by the farm for the operation of its water treatment plants. Putting together an island of solar panels starts on the bank of the reservoir. Workers assemble the panels into arrays which are fixed to floats. Once a portion has been assembled, it is towed out by a tugboat to its allocated location. There it is tethered to anchors planted in the reservoir bed to prevent it from drifting. Sembcorp also had to deal with the realities of the COVID-19 pandemic when construction began in December 2020. Shipments of parts were delayed, which the company compensated for by increasing worker productivity.
As part of productivity improvement, Sembcorp's engineers, our contractors, actually sat down in a room to brainstorm different methods to improve the installation methods. One example is to innovate a jig that they can assemble the panels in a faster way. So we managed to improve the productivity from 1,500 panels to about 1,800 panels per day.
To minimize possible delays should workers fall ill, the assembly area for the arrays was split into 4. Workers also take swab tests on a fortnightly basis as a precautionary measure before entering the construction site. Even our crew was not spared. This is Yao Hui, our photojournalist colleague who has been documenting the solar farm's progress since December. He's been swabbed 5 times so far. Also taken into consideration during construction was the preservation of the reservoir's ecosystem.
We look at different aspects, for example, biodiversity, impact on water quality, whether there's any impact on noise, etc. And from the studies, it's actually shown that the impact is actually very minimal. We also ensured that the system that is put in place is a well-designed one. That will include the selection of suitable materials. So for example, the floats that the solar PV is sitting on is actually certified food grade, high density polyethylene. So it ensures that under long-term deployment in the water, there's also no concerns in terms of leaching. so it's safe for water treatment purposes.
While Tengeh is easily Singapore's biggest step towards meeting its climate goals, much work remains. Sembcorp will contribute to a quarter of the country's 1.5 gigawatt peak target once its projects are operational. And for PUB, it already has other projects in motion to expand Singapore's use of clean energy.
In addition to the Tengeh Reservoir floating solar PV, we also have two systems that's coming online this year. One is at Bedok Reservoir and the other one is at Lower Seletar Reservoir. Both are at 1.5 megawatt peak each. On top of that, we also try to maximize the solar PV at our rooftops within our infrastructure. We have already implemented a few on Changi Water Reclamation Plant, Choa Chu Kang Waterworks, Bedok Waterworks. We have also enrolled in the most recent Solar Nova program that has been launched by HDB and EDB. We are enrolling about 13 sites onto that program. So with the positive experience from all these solar PV systems that we have implemented, we will continue to progressively implement more when the opportunity arises.